Hi everyone, my name is Stavros and welcome back to my channel. Today we're here to talk about Piranesi. Now I listened to this book on audiobook and I've heard a lot about Piranesi. I feel like so many people rank it in like one of their top books of all time. And so I've got to say when I started listening to Piranesi, I had pretty high expectations for the story. Like I said, it just so many people are like this is the best book of all time or it's really high up there for them, and so I had pretty high expectations and I've got to say it delivered. It was a really, really awesome story. I really liked the epistolary nature of the story. I think in general, I really like epistolary books, even though I haven't read that many of them. I just find them really intriguing and interesting, and it's just a really cool concept and a cool way to tell a story. So I really appreciated that nature of the book. And I will say, before I jump into some spoiler-free thoughts here, if you get the opportunity to listen to this book on audiobook, I would strongly recommend it. I think the narrator of this book does an absolutely incredible job. It really sucked me into the story, the way that he was narrating the story. But I will give a little caveat that I think the fact that I was listening to it on audiobook made me helped with a bit of confusion I was having at the start of the story. I was a little bit confused at the start, and I think that may be partly due to the fact that I was listening to it in an audiobook. But in general though, the audio experience of this novel is incredible. I would strongly recommend it. Okay, jumping into some spoiler-free thoughts to start us off. Like I said, I knew there was a lot of hype around this book, and I gotta admit that when I started listening to it, I could not see what all the hype was about. At the start, I was kind of like, this is really weird. I don't even know if I really am enjoying this all that much. It was very confusing, and I wasn't really hooked into the story, but I really liked the voice of the narrator and of the character, and so I figured, you know what, I'll continue to listen to it, especially it helps that the book is a really short book. So I thought, you know what, I'll just continue listening for a little bit while I'm doing dishes, while I'm doing random things, and just see kind of where the story goes. And then I've got to say that around like a third maybe into the story, you just start to learn some things that like recontextualize entirely everything that you've learned about the book so far. And from that point on, I was like absolutely hooked to the story. I flew through the rest of this book because I just wanted to know so badly what was going to happen. It was really well done, just the way that they kind of just sprinkle in this information, and like I said, it just really makes you start to think, oh wait a second, I've been thinking about this book entirely wrong the whole time. It was a really, really cool way that they went about doing that. And I read this book maybe 2 weeks ago now at this point, and I just cannot stop thinking about it. It was just really trippy, and it really makes you kind of think about, okay, what would, at least for me, what would I do if I was in the character's situation? Yeah, it really has gotten into my psyche of like, okay, what would I do in this situation? It's really, really cool. And I've got to say that at least for me, I found the ending to be really, really satisfying. So for a book this short and having such a satisfying ending, it was just an awesome, awesome read. Okay, let's jump into some spoiler thoughts now. Just what the heck? This book absolutely blew me away, especially because, like I said, at the start of the book, I was really thinking to myself, like, I just don't care. I don't care about what's going on in this house. We're just learning about, like, Piranesi's taking all these notes about the house, and we're learning about the house, how it's the whole world, and I just frankly just didn't care. And I was like, okay, if the whole book is like this, like, whatever, I guess I just, it'll be an interesting book to have read, like an interesting voice, but I just didn't really care all that much. But then all of a sudden, when you start to realize that something fishy is going on, it just like recontextualizes the whole book. And all of a sudden now I realize, oh shoot, I'm reading like a really incredible mystery novel all of a sudden. And I just did not think that's what this book was. And so it was just really cool how the whole story got switched on its head from, oh yeah, just we're taking these notes, learning about this house, this world, to wait a second, what's going on here? It was so good. I was absolutely shocked when you find out that this is actually an alternate dimension and that Piranesi has been trapped there for years. It was just, I did not see that coming at all. And like I said, I could not help but think to myself, oh my God, what would I do if I was in that situation? It really, at least for me, it really messes with your mind to think about that. And then as we start to learn more about the story, I like how we're kind of learning about the story through like the present of what's happening right now, but then also when we start to read the old journal entries and we start to kind of piece together what has happened and how this all kind of started, it was just so well done, kind of hopping back and forth between those two things and just learning about it. It was so cool. I really, really liked that aspect of the story, just the journal entries and, like I said, the epistolary nature of the book and getting to hop between the past and the present in that way was really, really well done. When we actually do start to learn about like the history of how this all started and how Arn Sayles kidnapped a man and kind of kept him in the house for a long time, or kept him in this dimension for a long time. How eventually he just starts to kind of get rid of people who oppose him by just dropping them into the dimension, and they're not able to get out on their own and they just die there. It just so creepy, and like the occult rituals of it all and everything that's going on, it just really kind of creepy, just got under my skin, gave me goosebumps. I really did not like it. And then eventually Arnsales gets arrested, and then that's when Ketterly kind of takes and kidnaps Matthew Rose Sorensen, or Piranesi, and drops him into the house and just leaves him there. And he's been there for years and years now, and it's so long that he eventually figured out how to live within the house, and that the house is kind of starting to like rewire his brain, and he no longer really thinks of himself as Rose Sorensen. And it's just such a messed up story for all that to be happening in that way. I really was like I said, it just got under my skin of just, Arnsales and Ketterly are just absolutely horrible, disgusting people. Anybody who would do anything like this to another human being, they just need to deserve what's coming to them. And I was kind of disappointed in the end that Piranesi didn't end up killing Ketterly, even though I think it made sense for Piranesi's character to have not done it. I was still really satisfied that Ketterly died in the end, because it was just so... I think I'm coming to realize that I have a really big aversion to like kidnapping or captivity stories. I just can't do it in movies or TV shows or documentaries. They just get under my skin in a way that almost nothing else does. And so to see that happening in this story in that way, I just wanted like the worst possible thing to happen to Ketterly especially, but even Arnsales, like all the stuff that he did too, it was just so gross. And yeah, it was just those just horrible, horrible people. In the end though, I really loved the ending of this story, how Raphael ends up teaching Piranesi how he can get back to the house from the real world, and how he kind of is now like straddling the two a little bit, how he is back in the real world but he goes back to visit the house. I loved that Piranesi went to go find James Ritter and take him back to the house for him to be able to visit. It was a really, really beautiful scene and thing for him to have done. And at like the very end of the story, when Piranesi is walking around and you're kind of thinking, wait, is he in the house right now or is he in the real world? And you're just not really sure. And almost like a personal theory that I was having at the time was maybe Piranesi created the house. Maybe this is something that he created and it's like a dimension within his own mind. I don't know. But regardless, it was just such an amazing story. And it was so short too, such a short and succinct story. To be that short and to be that impactful, it's just a real piece of art. It's just, I really, really loved this story. Overall, I think Piranesi was an absolutely amazing book. It had a bit of a slow start and a bit of a confusing start, but if you just let it breathe for a second, you'll just find yourself on this incredible journey, and it was so, so good, and it's just not left my mind over the last couple weeks, and I don't expect that it will anytime soon. I would give Piranesi a 5 out of 5 stars. Just an absolutely perfect, amazing book. A short read. I really highly recommend it, and an incredible audiobook experience as well. If you can listen to the audiobook, I highly recommend that as well. But what are your thoughts? Have you read Piranesi? Did you like it as much as I did? Were you also a bit confused at the beginning? I'd really be interested to have more of a conversation about this, because like I said, this was such a just a brain burner. Just so many things going on in this story, and I'd love to chat about it. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. And until next time,